Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Claire. I'm a contract librarian on assignment here with NOAA Central Library. And this seminar series is offered through the NOAA Central Library Seminar Program, which provides an educational forum for the presentation of ideas, research updates, and news in support of NOAA's mission. Before we start, I have a few technical tips for attendees. Just so you are aware, you are muted and you are not able to unmute. However, if you have a question, you can type it into the question panel and we will get to those during the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. If you're having any audio or visual issues, if you can't hear the speaker or see the slides, please try logging off and logging back on, and that will solve most issues in GoToWebinar. As a reminder, this is being recorded, and if you would like to revisit this seminar or view previous seminars, you can find them on our YouTube channel. Now I'm going to turn it over to Peg, who's going to introduce our speaker today.
Thank you, Claire. Greetings, everyone. This is Peg Brady from NOAA Fisheries. Today, we're continuing our 2021 NOAA Ecosystem-Based Management, Ecosystem-Based Fisheries Management Seminar Series, which we initiated back in November 2017. We're lucky to have Will Klaber here with us today, and we have one more seminar on December 8th before the end of the year, and we're starting to fill up our seminars for next year. So the purpose of our seminar series has been to showcase the excellent projects that are being done by NOAA staff and by our partners to advance EBM, and to increase awareness about ecosystem-based management by highlighting these initiatives and the work our partners are undertaking as well, and to enable NOAA fishery staff to highlight their own work that's underway. NOAA Library has been our co-host since 2017 and has done an excellent job, thanks to Claire and Katie. The seminars are held on the second Wednesday of each month from 3 to 4 Eastern Time, and each presentation is publicly accessible, recorded, and archived, as Claire had just mentioned. Following today's presentation, there'll be an opportunity to ask questions, and Claire will direct those questions to our speaker, Will. So I want to thank the attendees today and all of our speakers in the past, and for all those who will be joining us in the future. Today, we're very, very lucky to have Will Klaber, one of our NOAA Canals Fellows in 2021, and he will be presenting on the National Marine Ecosystem Status website 2.0, what it is and how can you get involved. So Will, we're going to turn it over to you, and thank you very much for your efforts in pulling this seminar together, and we look forward to hearing it. Thank you.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you to Peg, Claire, Katie, and the rest of the EBM seminar series and NOAA Central Library teams for having me today. And thank you all for attending my talk today, where I'll be talking you through NOAA's recently updated National Marine Ecosystem Status portal. I know it's late in the day before a federal holiday, so I really do appreciate you all tuning in and having to hear about the website. A little bit about myself before we get started. My name is Will Klaber. Like Peg said, I'm a current 2021 Canals Fellow. I'm also the Executive Secretary and Coordinator for the NOAA Science Council's Ecosystem Indicator Working Group, which is the working group that has designed and executed the website that I'll be talking about today. Prior to the fellowship, I completed a master's in marine resource management with a minor in risk and uncertainty quantification in marine systems at Oregon State University, go Beavs. And my research there focused on satellite-based, remotely sensed dynamic seascapes. So I'm going to start with some of the main takeaways that I hope you'll get from the presentation today. For those of you that don't know, as of last year, NOAA has a National Marine Ecosystem Status portal located at ecowatch.noaa.gov. The site is a cross-NOAA effort that provides marine ecosystem status at the large marine ecosystem scale at a glance using publicly available NOAA and partner data. And the site isn't designed to be the final destination for users. Our measure of success as a team is when users get off of our website and go to existing NOAA sites for deeper dives into data. That way they're getting the best information possible right from the source, and we are highlighting the employees and programs that do the fantastic work that make that data publicly available. And the reason I'm talking to you today is because the Ecosystem Indicator Working Group has officially updated the National Marine Ecosystem Status website for the first time on October 25th, 2021. Right now, we're working on spreading the word about new features of the site, and we're looking for feedback, both positive and negative, as well as ideas about future directions and potential collaborations with your office. So the way today is going to work, I'm going to talk a little bit about what the site is, some of the background on why we built the site, why it's built the way it is, what you can find there. I'll hop off of the slide deck for a little bit and actually give you guys a tour of the site live using the screen share feature. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll talk about the ways that we collaborate with NOAA programs and potential sources for collaboration with you in your office if you have any great ideas about things we could feature on our website. So let's start with a little bit of background on the website. Why did we develop the website? So let's theoretically say you're an end user of some sort, maybe a college student or a local politician, and you're looking for some data related to some coastal or ocean feature or process for a project that you're working on, either professionally, for school, or maybe you're just curious. You know about NOAA, and you know that NOAA and the federal government is the leader in collecting, analyzing, and storing this type of information. But you aren't necessarily familiar with all of NOAA's programs or its structure, and it can be confusing on where to find some ecosystem data, such as chlorophyll A, or know where to check on for the current status of an indicator. You might know that something like chlorophyll is important to ecosystem health in your area, but if you were to go and actually Google chlorophyll NOAA, you'll see that there's several programs that work with and on chlorophyll within NOAA, and not really a place where you can find concise, straightforward information about how to access or interpret that data. And so this was the reality of Dr. Jason Link, who's the senior scientist for ecosystem management within NOAA Fisheries. He was always getting questions about where to find certain types of data, other info, and especially things at a glance. There was this really, really high demand for indicator information at a glance. So when you want certain information, who are you going to call within NOAA? What's going on? You know to go to NOAA, but where do you go? And as you all know, across NOAA, there's a large number of successful programs and initiatives that develop and report on ecosystem indicators that spend a lot of time and effort boiling this very important data down into digestible pieces aimed at different types of end users. And they're related to specific mandate and mission objectives. These report cards inform the public, and they also provide a suitable testbed for next generation research. They're very, very important. However, there's no single source or one-stop shop that summarizes or synthesizes across these important efforts and/or that provide a broader overview of conditions across U.S. marine ecosystems or mission topics broadly. This is not a gap due to a lack of data, a lack of interest, a lack of resources or availability. It was simply a gap that existed. And data is often also made available via multiple Data is often made available through mission-specific product types and is dispersed across disparate access points. For example, making multiple sources hard to locate and compile, and information from different ocean use sectors fragmented, even for the same ecosystem. So like I said before, this was the reality for Dr. Jason Link 4 years ago. And to him, it seemed efficient and effective to have a website that solved this issue and filled that gap. So as a result, went to the NOAA Research Council, now the Science Council, and we were granted support from the Science Council to form a fixed duration cross-NOAA working group that works together to develop a web-based platform that will report status and condition across US geographies and NOAA mission areas based on a select set of existing ecosystem indicators. And so the platform itself is going to live on the website. It was going to use publicly available data. We needed to make sure that there were ways that we could break the information down spatially by geography, ways to break it down by themes so that you could compare geographies within themes. And we wanted to emphasize that we were leveraging and coordinating work that already existed. We weren't going to be in the business of developing new indicators as a team. Many of the people on the team do that for their regular work, but this was going to be leveraging existing work. And then, like I mentioned before, the point was not going to be to take traffic away from program office websites or existing portals. where we've already invested a large amount of time and effort, we wanted to make sure that we were sort of funneling traffic from our website into those existing sites. So this was 4 years ago. What took so long? Adding new expertise took a long time. Forming the working group took a long time. There was a pretty significant government shutdown, you all might remember. And you have to remember this is all done on a voluntary basis. And so right now, this is what the Ecosystem Indicators Working Group is looking like. And I really want to emphasize the cross NOAA aspect of this, along with the different types of disciplinary representation. But there's a good chance if you're a NOAA employee, you can look on this list and see somebody here that you recognize. It was really important to the Science Council and to Jason and Dr. Chris Kelbel, who are the co-chairs of the working group, to make sure that all corners of NOAA were represented and that there were a lot of different perspectives sort of going into the work that created and maintained this website. And before I go any further, I'm talking a lot about ecosystem indicators, and just so that we are all on the same page about what we mean by that, our definition as a team is that an indicator is a quantitative and or qualitative measure of key components of an ecosystem. And so when we're looking for indicators to put on the website, or we're working on specific indicators for the website, we're trying to make sure that they all provide some sort of insight into general status, and that they're connected to the other types of information that we're already hosting on the website, which ties into that ecosystem-based approach. And so what was the result of this effort? Like I mentioned before, the portal was launched in October 2020. And as of right now, there's 34 distinct indicators, over 20 themes live on the website, all using publicly available NOAA and partner data. Most of those indicators are available across all 7 large marine ecosystem regions that NOAA oversees. And another compelling and novel aspect of this website is the National Status Portal, which takes cumulative measures of certain indicators and makes them available for all waters of the United States that NOAA oversees. We had almost 10,000 visitors this year, mostly from organic search. So we've done a lot of work doing search engine optimization, making sure that this website comes to the top when people are looking for NOAA ecosystem indicators. And the great news is that nearly 1 in 4 people who visit the website click on a link to go to a different NOAA or partner site, which means we're accomplishing our goal of driving traffic away from our site and into the program sites and partner sites, so that people can get deeper dives on the information that they're looking for and actually sort of go to the people who are collecting and are stewards of those data. And then, like I mentioned before, I'm talking to you today because we updated the portal for the first time on October 25th, just a couple of weeks ago. And now we're going around trying to collect feedback about the website and hear what people have to say. So now I'm gonna sort of move into a tour of the portal. Hopefully you all have had a chance to see the portal before, or you saw the all hands email that went out a couple weeks ago and got a chance to look around. But in case you haven't, I'm gonna switch off of the slides right now and actually go to a live version of the website. So what you can see here is the landing page for the National Marine Ecosystem Status website. And the homepage gives a short overview about indicators, and it also encourages users to explore the data both spatially by region, by theme, and then to also look at the national status. So some information about how we're actually displaying the indicators is available on the About This Website tab, as well as the How to Use This Website tab. And one thing that was very important about putting this website together, and one thing that the Ecosystem Indicators Working Group wanted to focus on, was that we needed to make sure that there was a consistent way to display the data so that indicators could be compared to one another, and so that they could be compared year over year. And so to do that, there's 2 types of visualization that we use to display the data on the website. The first of which is a time series plot, which you may be familiar with. The time series plots show the changes in each indicator as a function of time, usually at the annual scale, but sometimes at the monthly scale, depending on the indicator. The plots also show horizontal lines that indicate the median value of the indicator over the entire time series, as well as solid lines that indicate the 10th and 90th percentiles of the data being shown. To determine recent trends in the indicator, we've taken the last 5 years of evaluation of publicly available data and highlighted it in green. And we've compared the trend and value over the last 5 years to the entire time series to come up with a trend analysis. So on each time series, there will be small glyphs on the right side that show whether or not the indicator values over the 5 years, whether they've been between the 10th and 90th percentile, above the 90th percentile, or below the 90th percentile, and whether or not the indicator itself is trending upwards or downwards, or whether no significant trend is available. And this was done for all relevant indicators for which the data was appropriate. Alongside the time series analysis, we have gauge plots that are designed to sort of give users an overview of the health, not the health of the ecosystem, but the value of the indicator over the last 5 years relative to the entire time series. And so the gauge plots that accompany the indicator are meant to reflect the overall score for the ecosystem component at the regional or national level. And what they represent are the percentile rank of the average value of that indicator over the last 5 years relative to the time series as a whole. So you shouldn't confuse the gauges themselves with actual tangible values. There's no units, it's a percentile rank of the last 5 years relative to the entire time series. So all of the data that we have on this website is displayed through either the gauge plots, the time series, or both, if applicable. The data is divided up on the website in 3 different ways. The first way is thematically. So you can see here those 20 distinct themes that I was talking about, where we have our indicators grouped up. We have biological indicators, including chlorophyll A, seabirds, coral reefs, climate indices and physical indicators like sea surface temperature and sea level, and then human dimensions indicators like coastal population, recreational fishing, billion-dollar disasters, and coastal tourism. So if you were to go to a page like sea surface temperature, you would see a description of the indicator on the left side, getting at a definition of the actual indicator, why it's important to ecosystem health, as well as information about the source of the data. And then on the right side, there are all of the large marine ecosystem regions for which we have data available for each indicator. And if you were to click on one, a pop-up window comes out where you can get more information about that specific indicator in that region. You can see the time series here, as well as those glyphs that I was talking about, and the gauge plot on the right side. The plain language here has been updated to make it easier to understand for those all the way down to an 8th grade science level. And the language directs users directly to the places where we downloaded the data before we visualized it. All of the thematic pages like this also have links to additional resources from NOAA and its partners at the bottom, so that end users who want to get more information about an indicator more generally have places to go. The second way we divide the data up is spatially. So you can see here a clickable infographic of the 7 NOAA LME regions. If you were to click on one, you're taken to a page that describes the large marine ecosystem and shows a web page with 4 tabs showing the indicators that we have available for each LME, broken up by thematic category. And the same thing applies to the pop-out windows here. You can click on an individual indicator, get some more information about where the data is coming from, how to interpret it. And then if you're also confused about the time series or how to interpret the gauge plot, you can click on the question mark in the top right, and those definitions of the gauge plots and time series plots come out. The regional pages like this are really helpful for those who want to get a better sense of ecosystem health spatially. So you can compare things like chlorophyll A, zooplankton, forage fish, things that may be related, and get a sort of better sense of the interconnectedness of some of these indicators spatially. The last way that we divide the data up is through a national status, and I think I really want to drive home that this is one of the real novel components of the website. So what we have here are sort of sum totals or national representations of ecosystems across all 7 LMEs. So the values here and the time series here represent indicator values for all waters of the United States that NOAA oversees that we have data for. And I say this is novel because there hasn't really been another website or place where we've taken a look at these indicators together at this spatial scale at an either annual or monthly scale. And so it's kind of a unique way to look at overall trends in ecosystem indicators at a large marine ecosystem scale for the first time. Additionally, we wanted to make sure that we were adding some information about why we were showing these indicators together and why it's relevant and interesting to show things like chlorophyll A, forage, seabirds together on one website. And so we do provide some information about ecosystem-based management and ecosystem-based fisheries management and links to NOAA resources on those topics. Finally, the more resources section on the website provides links to NOAA websites or partner websites that may be other data portals, data repositories, or program websites where users can go to find more information about these data at different scales. They can go to download these data themselves or find different ways to look at the things that they're finding on this website. So that's sort of the basic tour of what we're looking at when we're talking about the National Marine Ecosystem Status website. And I'm more than happy to answer questions about other features of the site or specific features of the site when we get to the question and answer period. But now I want to transition a little bit towards what's new on the site in our new update, as well as ways that you can get involved and your program can get involved. So like I mentioned before, on October 25th, 2021, we officially updated the website for the first time. The site is designed to be updated annually. So the data that are displayed on the website are not updated in real time. They're not linked to any sort of real-time data portals or anything like that. And so because the site was 1 year old, the October 25th update represented the first ever update of the information that's available on the website. We were very proud to debut an entirely new indicator, marine species distribution, which is a partnership with the Ocean Adapt program in NOAA Fisheries. The marine species distribution indicator shows changes in both latitude and depth for all of the sampled species in a large marine ecosystem. So what you're seeing there on the plot is the change in centroid latitude for all species sampled within an LME. We also worked with a couple of NOAA programs to expand existing indicators. For example, our coral reefs indicator was expanded to include subscores from NOAA's NCREMP indexes, and the coastal tourism indicator was expanded to include real wage compensation and total employment for those who work in the tourism and recreation sectors in all coastal counties of the United States. We also worked hard to integrate some comments that we were getting from end users of the website who were concerned about some of the plain language interpretation of the data. So we worked a lot with our comm specialists and people in different programs to make sure that the plain language that we were using to interpret the data on the website was both understandable to broad audiences, but also reflective of the data itself, making sure that we were taking note of any caveats or stipulations in the data. And we've also added additional information about our indicator proposal process and made that public on the website. We want to be transparent about the things that we're putting on this website. And we also want to make sure that this is a collaborative effort and that those who have good information that should be displayed on the website have a way to get into contact with us and propose new indicators, new information, new resources, or potential collaborations for us. Speaking of, we work very closely with many programs both within NOAA and outside of NOAA. You can see here just a handful of the offices that we work with we have worked with in the past to develop indicators and are currently working with to make sure that the indicators are using the best available data and are representing that data in the right way. And one of the reasons we look forward to doing seminars like this and sort of doing broad outreach both within NOAA and outside of NOAA is that we are always looking for new ideas for indicators to put onto the website. We're always looking for feedback on existing indicators, for updated data, for ways to improve our plain language and outreach. And so one of the reasons we came here today was to look for potential collaborations both within NOAA Fisheries, within NOAA more broadly, or with partner organizations that have this type of long-term time series data at the large marine ecosystem scale so that we can turn it into an indicator and get that information to the broad public. So how can you get involved? First of all, everybody here, whether or not you want to get involved, should peruse the web portal. We want you to go through, click through, look through all the indicators, and send us your honest feedback. All the feedback for the website should go to nmfs.eiwg@noaa.gov, and spread the word to your offices, your teams, to other people within your program, so that they can look at it too, and we can make sure that as many NOAA and partner perspectives are integrated as possible. Also, let us know what we might miss. It might include, we are always constantly looking for new indicators to add to the website. Every spring, we have something called Indicator Palooza, where we sit down as a working group and we sift through all of the newly proposed indicators, sort of vet them and look at the data that are associated with them and sort of visualize what that might look like to go up on the website. We also want you to note data sets, the web pages that we are linking to on the website. And if you are serious about proposing a new indicator, like I mentioned before, our indicator criteria is listed on the website, as well as a form for people to upload data and ideas for us to review in the spring. Like I said before, our main aim is to highlight what NOAA does, and our main measure of success is to drive interested parties to other websites. So that could be your website, that could be your data portal. It really is a win-win for us and for your program office if we are able to get your information up on the website. So now that we've updated the website, where are we going from here? We are going to continue to update the website annually. Like I mentioned before, we're always constantly reviewing our existing indicators for quality and adding new indicators using those indicator selection criteria that I mentioned before. We're constantly working with those partners that we talked about before to develop new tools to sort of refine the scale and accuracy of the indicators that we have on the website, make sure that we're doing justice to the data and presenting the best available information to the American public and our target audiences. We're currently looking into a possible expansion into habitat indicators, things like submerged aquatic vegetation, kelp forests, things like that. So if you have information or links to sort of large scale data sources related to those types of things, we'd love to hear from you or work with your program about ways that we could get that onto the website and get that information out to the public. And we're also exploring the inclusion of the Great Lakes region. This is one of the most common questions we get, right? Because when I talk about waters of the United States that NOAA has jurisdiction over, obviously that includes the Great Lakes region. Some keen eyes may have noticed that that region was not included currently on the website. We're working with partners in that region right now to sort of figure out how we can get that information onto the website and possibly expand the website into that area so we can have all of the great work that NOAA does featured on the website. So that's what I have as far as the planned portion of the seminar. I'm very much looking forward to fielding questions from you all. But before I do, I wanted to make sure I thanked the EBM Seminar Series team, Peg and Katie and Claire, I wanted to thank the Ecosystem Indicator Working Group who worked so hard to make sure that this website was updated and that we were getting the best available information up onto the website for the update. Special thank yous to Steve Giddings in Sanctuaries, Scott Cross in NCEI, and Alan Spooner in the Fisheries IEA program. Those are my Canals mentors, and they've done a lot for me this last year. And special shout out to Dr. Jason Link and Dr. Chris Kelbel, the co-chairs of the working group, who have worked very hard to make sure this all happen as well. And then one last thing before we get to questions, if you are interested in hearing more about my journey and my role within the website, I'm also going to be speaking at the NOAA Canals Lunch and Learn seminar series next Thursday from 12 to 1. I'll be giving a lightning talk about my role within the website alongside some of my great friends who work in very cool places within the NOAA Canals program. So if you have time and are thinking of it, next Thursday at lunchtime Eastern, tune in and you can hear from me again. But now I'll turn it back over to Claire for any questions that you all might have.
Yes, I do have a question here. Just a reminder to everyone, you can type questions in your question panel. So the first one here, are there any resources available for temp, oxygen, pH, alkalinity, depth profiles? This would be very interesting, especially within regions including pelagic fishery target species. My apologies if I'm mispronouncing that.
No, that's a fantastic question. And as far as looking at things like temperature, alkalinity, and oxygen at depth, that's not something we have available right now on the website, but we are working with partners on dissolved oxygen. I can say is one that we've been very interested in the past about getting data and an indicator onto the website for. So if you'd like to be involved in that, please reach out. Alkalinity and temperature at depth are also ones that we have explored in the past, probably not to as great an extent as dissolved oxygen. But I do know that some of the partners and some of the people who are pretty high up on the EIWG are working on some indicators for temperature at depth. And so work is being done in those areas, but we don't have anything up on the website for that right now.
All right, do you anticipate the inclusion of links of indicators to real-time data sources?
That's a great question. And that's also sort of a wish list item for us. There are some really, really great NOAA products and other products that are out there right now, websites and reports that feature links to data that update in real time and data streams that are able to sort of populate and repopulate at different time intervals. We'd love to do that. Right now, as a volunteer-driven organization, we don't have the resources or capacity to build something like that at the moment. And I think there's also potential questions about where that data might come from and what it might look like as far as getting it into the spatial and temporal scales that we need to represent on the website. But in the future, I think it's something we'd definitely be interested in. I think it would be a great benefit, a great feature to have available on the website.
All right, has there been any talk of a future center within NOAA to support ecological challenges, as these efforts rely on collaboration of different centers, often with distinct and critical missions?
Sorry, could you repeat the first part of the question one more time, Claire?
Yeah, has there been any talk of a future center within NOAA to support ecological challenges?
Sure. So I can't speak too broadly about this, just due to the fact that I probably wouldn't be included in too many conversations that were concrete about the development of a new center within NOAA. But I can say that NOAA leadership and people who are in powerful places within NOAA have recognized how beneficial the cross NOAA aspect of this project has been, and how much we've been able to get done sort of by crossing line office lines and program lines and working together on a product. And you're absolutely right that so many products and data sets and things like that rely on sort of that cross-program effort. So I can't speak definitively on whether or not there's been talk about a new program or a new initiative to sort of take on those types of ecological challenges. But I can say one really great outcome from this project has been that leadership has noticed how valuable it is to support projects like this that have sort of those transdisciplinary aspects to them. And so hopefully that's something we'll see more of in the future.
Thanks. Is there any effort for looking at projecting indicators into the future or changes to those indicators due to climate change and environmental variability?
That's a fantastic question. I can't believe the quality of these questions, because you guys are hitting on all of the things that we talk about as a working group internally about next steps and places we might want to go. So we've had conversations about forecasting indicators or working with programs that have people who are able to forecast indicators. The biggest barrier to that, I think, right now for us is consistency. If we're adding a feature to a certain indicator, I think we'd want to make it available as possible for as many indicators as we can on the website. And so there are some things that may be easier to forecast than others. And it would just be sort of a question of effort versus benefit, whether or not we wanted to do that for one or two indicators. But that is something that we've talked about. I do think that there is a benefit there, and I'm glad that you mentioned the climate change aspect of it as well. That's inherently present anytime you're talking about ecosystem health or ecosystem indicators. It kind of gets into a sticky area because we don't try to comment definitively on ecosystem health. We just sort of present the data on this website and allow end users or program offices to interpret those data as they see fit. But as far as sort of making the climate aspects, making sure that that's included in the conversation, that's something we've also talked about in the past. So that could be something that's coming to this effort in the future. And if you have ideas about ways that we can make these things happen, and this also goes for the person who asked about the real-time data as well. If you guys have ideas or you know people who are able to make these things happen, we'd love to talk to you. We'd love to sort of lay out a plan for what this might look like in the future.
All right, it looks like that is all we have for questions right now.
Claire, this is Peg. I have a question. I'm sorry I didn't post it in there, but this is Peg Brady speaking. Two somewhat unrelated questions. Will, you might have touched on it, but has the group decided or explored the use of using some of the state or territory data? Because the states have a robust body of information. So I was wondering if that has been considered at all.
Yeah, absolutely. So so the main purpose of the website is to feature NOAA data more prominently, but in certain cases where NOAA doesn't have data at the correct scale for our website, or if there are better sources available for a certain indicator through a partner, whether that be a state agency, a nonprofit, or somebody else. We have worked with state agencies to integrate some sources of data. It does get tricky because we are operating at the large marine ecosystem scale, which means obviously working with several different states and possibly combining data sets that have maybe different methodologies applied to them. But it's not unprecedented, and it is something we have done. A good amount of the beach closure data, for example, on the website is that data comes from the EPA, but it's a conglomerate of state-reported beach closures across the LMEs. So it is something we look into and we do keep tabs on, yes.
Great. And then the last question I had was in terms of monitoring the traffic to the site, do you have any information data on that, and whether it's broken down to users, groups, or just curious how you're monitoring that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm constantly monitoring the analytics on the website. Was very happy to see a spike in activity after the all hands email went out a couple of weeks ago. But we do have information about user groups, geographies, people's behavior on the website, and what specific links they're clicking off to, what programs they're going to, what pages people are most interested in. And we're using that information to sort of direct our efforts in the future. One thing that we've talked about moving forward in next year is potentially doing a little bit more outreach to our target audiences to see if we're really accomplishing the goals that we set out to accomplish. And then that paired with sort of the analytics data that we have available to us, we'll be able to sort of inform our decisions moving forward and make sure that we're providing the best product possible. If people are more curious about some of the analytics, or if you have specific questions about traffic, behavior, user acquisition, we can see where people came from, whether they got to our site from Google or from a link somewhere. Feel free to send an email to either me or the working group email at the bottom, and I'd be happy to share that information with you.
Thanks, Will.
All right, and we did get one more question that popped up while you were talking just now. So the last question here is, have you folks collaborated with the multi-model large ensemble archive?
I'm not familiar with any current collaboration with that group or that effort. It sounds like something that would be right up our alley, though, and so I can't speak to any sort of collaboration that happened before my fellowship year. It's quite possible that we've worked with them in the past and that they actually had a hand in what currently exists on the site right now. But I personally can't speak to that, and I think it'd be great if you reached out to us and we can see what that collaboration might look like moving forward.
Right, and they did provide a link here, which I will forward to you all of these questions after the seminar ends here. So that is all of them. Thank you, Will, for joining us today. Thank you, everyone, for attending. You will be able to find this presentation on YouTube later this evening. When the presentation ends, you'll see a survey, and if you take that survey, we do use those to improve marketing our library seminar service and to inform future seminar topics. So thank you all again for joining us. Have a safe and enjoyable rest of your day.
Yeah, and please join us on December 8th. We have Laura Bowie from the Gulf of Mexico Alliance speaking on December 8th, Wednesday at the same time. Thank you very much.